Hi everyone! So for the application presentation, I was assigned Module 6, which was the attitude measurements. The one piece of, I guess you can say, concept that I want to go over is going to be the pitfalls in attitude, and I specifically want to focus on one certain pitfall, which is the one that states that people have the desire to say what's socially acceptable rather than what they truly believe. And I want to relate this one to an example that I have in my professional life, just because after reading this, I felt like I was really put in a situation where I had to speak my mind versus what was socially acceptable. And I'm sure that there are plenty of other examples of how people can relate to this socially and academically as well. I am currently a lead teacher at a daycare facility. I watch 2 to 3-year-olds, and I particularly have about 10 to 12 students a day. And I'm with them from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., somewhere between the hours because most of them kind of come very early or leave very late. I particularly had one student who I noticed that she was developing a little slower than the rest of her kiddos, than the rest of her students. And I also noticed that her brain was not in sync with her body. So if we were like, it's time to sit down, it's time for nap, she knew all what it was, but she just could not really get her body to do the action that she was being told. And I actually have previous experience with children with disabilities, and so that alone kind of gave me a little warning sign in my head to watch her even more, and just to make sure that it was a behavioral pattern and it wasn't something that just happened that she was having a bad day or something. So we regularly have 3-month conferences, and she had been at that facility since she was a baby, so 3 years and counting. And no one had ever told her mom that she felt that her daughter should get evaluated. So at this particular conference, I decided to bring up the conversation of maybe having her daughter evaluated, just because of the warning signs she was giving out. And this particular decision kind of plays in with the pitfall of attitude, because if I had not stood up and spoke my mind, then I basically would have been feeding into saying something that's socially acceptable, which was irrelevant to what the main topic should have been about. And another thing that's pretty important, for this situation, is I did have her child's best interest at heart, and I was not doing this to, I guess you can say, put her down, or I didn't want to make her mom feel like I was only doing this to say that something was wrong with her child. So I think it's pretty important that we remain alert and aware of the things that we're saying, because if we're not speaking the true feelings that we feel and all of the honesty that we have, then we're kind of straining our own relationships, and we're only speaking on what's socially acceptable. And I kind of think that that also leads people to see us and perceive us as a completely different person, and that's not the best way of living, because you're not really being your true self. And in the end, with my example, she actually did have a sensory development issue, and I'm kind of still very happy that I did bring it up, because now she's getting the true help that she needs, and she actually is going to therapy, and she's progressing at the same rate as her friends, which was my main goal all along. I was not doing it to, I guess you can say, insult her mom or think that I knew better for her, because I spent so much time with her during the day. And I also think that the last thing that we should be aware of is to distinguish when and how we say things. So even if you feel like it's okay to say it, you have to be aware of when and how. So you cannot say something rudely just because you are kind of ignoring that's not socially acceptable, so I'm just going to speak my mind. I feel like we have to kind of have the right attitude, which is exactly this chapter. You have to say things with the right attitude in order to get the, I guess you would say, right response after saying it. Just because you feel like it's okay to say it, you also have to consider other people and their thoughts on if it's acceptable and if it's in the right way to say it. Bye.